What's up, everybody? Bopalopagus here at Camp Sekani Disc Golf Course, and we're going to be playing an 18-hole scoring round today. Let's get into it. And starting off with hole 1, we have a 357-foot par 3. Plays straight ahead off the tee, and you got to get up over those front bushes there. And there's a little ditch you got to get across, and the basket is just up on the top of that ditch. And we're going to go with our Halo Star turn here. And we just leak it left a little bit. There's a little bit of a right to left wind, and we don't turn it over. But we have a little bit of a look here. We'll go with the patent pending with the A4 and hopefully be able to pitch it up towards the basket. And I initially think it's a great shot, but I actually sent it about 50 or 60 feet past the basket. So we're going to go with a pilot pitch up here. We'll just go with a forehand turnover and hopefully leave it right next to the basket. And we are able to do that, and so we'll start the round off with a tap-in bogey. And on to hole 2 now. We have a 232-foot par 3. Plays maybe about 250, 260 up the hill. And we're going to go with our Ethos Omen here and try to flex it through that left gap and have it crash back in towards the basket. And we just extend, don't stay committed on the release, so we end up yanking it over. And we kick left off a tree and do end up OB, so we're just going to be pitching up here for hopefully the bogey. And it's a really bad shot with a really bad camera angle, but we leaked it right, and we have about a 15-footer left for the bogey. And we just leave it high, and we're going to be starting off the round 3 over through 2, so pretty bad, but we'll move on to hole 3. And it is a 245-foot par 3, plays up the hill about 260, 270, and it shapes up well for a forehand turnover, so we're going to go with our destroyer here. And we make the same mistake we did on the last hole, pulling up early and not committing through the shot, and we stay clean through all the trees and find the left side OB. And we're left with about 50 feet in, and we pitch it up, and it's a horribly unfocused shot, and we lead about circle's edge to save bogey. And we are unable to save the bogey with a butterfly toss at the basket. And we're starting off 5 over through 3, which is one of the worst starts I've had in a long time, so we'll have to turn it around here to save the round. And we can start on hole 4, which is a 359-foot par 3. Plays pretty downhill. It's usually a putter or mid-range shot. I'm going to go with my A4 here. Try to keep it low, keep it straight through all the trees, and just get down there to where I can pitch up and maybe have a birdie look. And we finally threw a good shot, and we're left about 70 feet out, and we are in a little bit of bushes, but we have a forehand look over the top or a step out look to the left. And I'm going to go with the step out look to the left and just try to pitch it in, give it a chance. And we are able to do that, leave it just short, but it's a pretty good shot, and it circles up, and we'll have a tap in for the par, back on the par train. And we'll try to keep that going on hole 5, which is a 366-foot par 3. And we're going to go with our ESP Meteor here and just try to keep it flat and let it turn through the gap to the right there. But we try to do the work for the disc, and we throw it on an anhyzer, and it's a little bit low, so we roll it into the ground. But we don't go OB, and we don't miss the Mando, so we're in an alright spot. And with about 100 feet left into the basket here, we're just going to go with our Electron anode and just try to pitch it up to the basket. And we send it skyward instead, maybe the worst shot of all time, and we leave ourselves with about 40 feet in now. And it's a good looking putt for par, but it doesn't swing in, so it misses right, and we'll have about a 10-footer for the bogey, which we're also going to miss, and we'll tap in our double. And we're now 7 over through 5 holes, so we've definitely got our work cut out for us to make this a good round. But we're on to hole 6, which is a 350-foot par 3, just straight down the hill, straight ahead. And I'm going to go with my Pathfinder here and just try to keep it flat down the hill. But instead I'm going to grip lock it straight into the first available, and we're going to kick right, and we'll hopefully have some to pitch up. And we're now scrambling with our A4. And I'm just going to go with a forehand turnover and try to get lucky back into the fairway and hopefully be close enough to the basket that we'll have a putt to save par. And we actually end up in a decent spot, maybe about 40 feet out. And we take a trip to Yanksville with the putt, and so we'll have a tap in for the bogey, which with the drive really isn't horrible. And with that, we are now 8 over through 6 and on to hole 7, which is a 375 foot par 3. And it plays sneaky uphill. I think it plays probably closer to about 400 feet. And I'm going to go with my hill star turn up the left fairway here. And I'm just going to early release it and give it no turn at all. And we're going to go into the trees and we'll be scrambling again. And I'm going to go with my omen this time and try to chop it over through that left fairway and let it fade out and hopefully not skip too far. And it just slips out of my hand and it goes into those middle trees, but we should have an up and down for bogey. And we're about 120 out, and I'm going to go with my A4 here forehand, and I'm going to do that to hopefully try to avoid a rollaway that might happen with the backhand. But it won't matter anyway because I'm going to yank it over to the left side, and we might have a putt through the bushes, but it's going to be tough either way. And we do have a gap from where we're at, from about circle's edge, maybe just outside. And we miss the chains completely, but catch the basket and get an absolutely cruel jump out. But luckily no rollaway, so we'll have a tap in for the 5. And now 10 over through 7, but we're on to hole 8, which is a 338 foot par 3. And the basket is just straight ahead. I like to play off to this left side a little bit because it gives it an open forehand up to the basket. And we're going to go with our neutron trail here, and we are going to get to that left side, and hopefully we'll have an easy pitch up to the basket. And we are a little bit stuck behind this tree, so we're going to go with the step out forehand with the A3, and hopefully flex it out and leave it low enough that it'll land flat, and hopefully not roll away or skip or anything crazy. And just leave it too high and not enough turn, and we end up pretty far away, which is pretty unfortunate with that good drive. But we are able to save par if I can just make this long putt. And I just yank it again and back to the same issues, and we'll have a tap in for the bogey. And now 11 over through 8, and hole 9 is a 271 foot par 3 straight ahead, a little bit to the left off the tee. And we're going to go with our omen down the right fairway and just try to let it crash in towards the basket. And we pull it a touch off our line to the right, and we get a little bit lucky and kick back into the left fairway, and we'll hopefully have an up and down for the par. And we're going to go with our anode here and just try to get a gentle turnover over all the bushes and hopefully land next to the basket. And we're able to do that, leave ourselves about 12 feet under a bush that's a little bit awkward. And we miss to the left, and we'll have a tap in for another bogey. And we are now 12 over through 9 and on to hole 10, which is a 310 foot par 3. And it's just straight ahead on top of those rocks, and it is a little bit downhill. And we're going to go with my ozone here and just try to keep it straight through the tunnel. And we were mostly able to do that. We threw it on a touch of ante instead of flat, so it ended just right at the fairway. But we have about 70 feet into the basket here, and we're just going to try to putt it up, keep it close, and hopefully tap in a par. And we just leave it a touch high and get swatted down by the tree in front of the rocks there. And we're left with about 30 feet in, so we're going to have to make a long putt. And we just leave that putt left, but we'll have a tap in for the bogey. But we actually airball that one as well, and now we're putting from about the same spot that we were for par. But thankfully this time we were able to knock it in for a double bogey after a 3-putt to go 14 over through 10. But we move on to hole 11, which is a 284 foot par 3, and it's just up the hill and swings back to the left there. And we're going to go with our champion gummy wraith here and just try to put it down the fairway and then have it swing back in towards the basket at the end. And we finally threw a good drive, and we leave ourselves about 25 feet in, and we leave the putt just short, but we'll finally have a tap in for the par, so hopefully we can keep that momentum rolling. And we're now on to hole 12, which is a 300 foot par 3, and it's just up the fairway and then just to the left of the top of the hill. And I'm going to go with my K1 Voss here and try to get it up the hill and swing it back in towards the basket. And we unfortunately just missed our line to the left and smack dead straight off a tree. But we're going to go with the A4 pitch up here with a forehand and hopefully leave it under the basket and hopefully have a tap in par. And we're left around circle's edge again. and we just give it a defeated effort and leave it short again, and we'll have a tap in for the bogey. And we are now defeated through 12 and on to hole 13, which is a 234 foot par 3, and you got to get through or around those pillars there and get up to the basket, which is on the top of a little hill. And we're just trying to salvage the round at this point, so we're going to get hydrated, and then we're going to throw our cicada and just try to get around those trees to the left and hopefully flatten out and don't roll away too far. And it doesn't flatten out as much as we'd like. Put it on just a little bit too much ante, but it's still a pretty good shot. Leave ourselves about 30 feet for the birdie. And we leak it left and push it about 15 feet past the basket. And on the comebacker, we leave it just a touch too high, and we'll have a tap in for the bogey after a birdie look. And on to hole 14, it is a 347 foot par 3. And we're going to go with our anode here and just try to throw it down the hill and really just get lucky through all the trees. And it was a fine drive, a little bit low and a little bit turned over, but we're left with about 100 feet into the basket here, so we should be able to get up and down for par. And we're just losing focus at this point and pull it over to about 25 feet, and we're left with that for the par putt. And we're going to short it once again, but we're at least on the pole, and we'll tap in our bogey. And hole 15 is a 262 foot par 3, and it's a little bit weird. You got to get up over this initial hill and then it drops off a little bit, so you got to keep the nose down. And we're going to go with our K1 Voss here and just try to hit the initial gap and get down the fairway. And we are thankfully able to do that, and we'll putt up under the basket and we'll tap in our par. And hole 16 is 293 feet away, and it's up on a little bridge, par 3, and it's similar to the last hole. Got to get over a little hill at the start, and then it dips down. And we're going to go with our trail here and just try to keep it straight and hopefully get over the ditch. And we overturned it a little bit into a rock, but thankfully we kicked left and into a decent spot in the middle of the fairway. So we'll just pitch up here with a little forehand flick A4 and hopefully have a tap in par. And we have a little bit of a scary roll, but thankfully it doesn't go too far, and we have about a 15 footer for the par. And we just sneak it in left side of the chains and it drops into the basket. And we're on to hole 17 now, which is our first par 4 of the day, and it is 559 feet down the hill, and you're trying to get through that left fairway over those trees at the bottom of the hill or up the right fairway, but I'm going to go with my hill start turn here up the left fairway and just try to turn it back into the middle of the fairway through that left gap. And that's one of my better drives that I've ever had on the hole. And we're left with about 100 feet into the basket, and we're going to go back to the A4 pitch up with a forehand. And we unfortunately overturn it this time and kick left, and we're just going to be left to try to pitch up for par. And we're still about 100 feet out, and we're going to go with our pilot and just try to pitch up, and we luckily land under the basket, and we'll have a tap in for the par. And we're on to hole 18 now, and we are going to go with our pilot, and it's just 333 feet way down the hill, and it's a par 3, and we put it out there, and it just fades in front of those two trees, and it's a decent drive, and we'll be pitching up, and we might have a look for birdie. And we do luckily have a look. We're about circle's edge, maybe just outside, and we're going to give it a bid, and we leave it just left, and we'll be able to tap in the par and finish 16 over on the round, which is pretty bad, but we'll be back at it again. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll be back at you sometime, and pop off.